Okay, we're going to shift to golf. It's Gill Alexander, it's Matt Brown, Danielle Alvari, and Kelley Bydlon. This is VSiN's primetime action. One of the staples of this show is that Matt and Kelley take their golf betting very, very seriously, and they do everything by predictive model. And for those who are new to betting, what you will find with sports betting is there's a spectrum of bettors, handicappers, I should say. On one end of the spectrum, roughly, is guys who do stuff by data, by the raw numbers. That's how I do my tennis, by the way, as well. My parlay's halfway home. On the other end, there's more of a smoke and mirrors thing where guys just come up with, or gals, come up with whatever kind of reasoning they want to make specific bets. And there's a spectrum of bettors in between. Some mix the both of them up. Doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just whatever works for you. And when you guys approach golf, that's how you do it. So we're going to the WGC-FedEx St. Jude Invitational. It is in Memphis, Tennessee. And Matt, this is a great field. Whenever it's a WGC event, the purse is huge. Money tends to attract people.
It definitely does. This is, look, that's why if you joined us with Wes Reynolds earlier, we were talking about there's a whole nother tournament with a whole bunch of familiar names. It's just they aren't guys that can get in to a WGC. It's a par 70 here at the TPC Southwind. It is 7,233 yards, but, you're looking, you're saying, 7,233 yards, that's not really that long. But when it's a par 70 and there's missing two par 5s, it actually is fairly
yeah, it's a long par
decent.
7.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent course here. No cut event, so you don't have to worry about your guy getting cut. So that is one of the reasons why I really did emphasize birdie and better makers this week, because guys that can, string together a nice couple rounds on Saturday and Sunday even and still be in the mix here. Very small greens, average only 4,300 square feet. It is very difficult to hit these things. So 59% greens in regulation at TPC Southwind over the course of tournaments that have run here. We have a ton of sample size here for that, compared to a little right at 66% is a tour average greens in regulation. So you're seeing, a pretty big gap there between what's going to happen at TPC Southwind and what you normally see on a tour event. Lots of water hazards at this place. Water absolutely everywhere. There is the most water balls on tour since 2004. By 1,500.
I know. I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
By 1,500.
Wow.
The most water balls on tour since 2004. If you guys remember, Brooks Koepka actually had a nice run at Justin Thomas last year, but he put a ball in the water on 18. It is. There will be water.
Nearly 100 more balls per year in the water.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Holes 5, 7, 12, 14, 17, and 18 all have a bogey percentage over 18%. So again, it's a pretty tough course here, despite the fact that you're going to hear. I think a lot of people are going to try to say otherwise, but it's a pretty tough course here. Don't necessarily need to putt well here to win. We've seen this over the course of the tournament as well. You can even just go back to last year. Justin Thomas, Brooks Koepka finished 1-2 in this event. Both lost strokes putting over the course of the tournament and still won this thing. And JT still won. Koepka comes in second here. So it's not one of these tournaments where you really have to be a good putter.
And that's one of those things, like, Matt, when people are asking why, it's like, well, it's what you said before. They have such small greens that you're putting it close. So
because you're playing from right off of the green, because you've come off of the green and then you're like kind of chipping up, playing for par, and all the things like that. Doesn't look like there's going to be any weather this week, so that is good as well. So we're not really favoring the early wave or the late wave or kind of anything like that. It doesn't look like the weather is going to play much of a factor here. Whenever we kind of look here, these fairways are pretty tight, but I don't know about you, Kelley. I didn't really factor in distance too much in this one, as I did more people who I think are going to hit more fairways. That was because, like I said, it's not like the course is short, but it's not long either, right? So I would rather have a guy who's either in and or around the fairways than crazy bomber type stuff, again, Bryson, whatever, stuff like that. Like I'm not in on any of that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the rough's supposed to be too bad along the fairways this week. So I will say I factored in ball striking into my model a bit, which is a little off the tee combined with approach. But really more to your point earlier about the greens. This stroke gain approach we talk about every week. It's the most important stat in golf, especially for betting golf. But at this course with such small greens, it matters way more here than almost any. So I think it's top 3 as far as strokes gained approach, how much it matters here versus other tournaments on the PGA Tour. So I really, as far as everything approach-wise, stat-wise that I looked at, Matt, it was strokes gained approach, strokes gained ball striking, which even includes approach, and then off the tee. And then but par 4s, 450 to 500 yards. There are 9, I believe. 7 par 4s measure over 450 yards that sit between that 450 and 500 yard mark. So I factored that in, and then it was greens in regulation. Like you said, that matters a lot. That's not a stat that I'm often putting in my model, but put that in. Looked at opportunities gained, birdies are better gained on those par 5s. There are only 2, but both are kind of eagleable par 5s. You can get an eagle there. And then bogey avoidance was something I factored pretty highly this week, just of guys that trying to keep it out of the water. So those were the stats that I really focused on this week for this
Interesting.
event.
We're pretty much on the same. Yeah, I'm strokes gained approach. I have fairways gains. Have birdie or better. Strokes gained around the green. So I don't think you did around the green, but I did around the green because they're going to miss. The guys are going to miss these greens a lot. So I wanted to see who was good around the green up there. I have greens in regulation gained as well, and then like you, I have par 4 scoring on 450 to 500 yard par 4s, with those being so prevalent this week in this tournament. If we look at the odds here, it's going to be all big names that we talk about here because it's only big names that are playing this tournament. But Brooks Koepka is your favorite at 11-1 over at DraftKings. Morikawa at 12-1. Jordan Spieth at 12-1. Schauffele 14-1. DJ sitting at 18. Justin Thomas at 18. Daniel Berger at 20. Louis Oosthuizen, who, by the way, has been on an absolute heater, is at 20-1. Victor Hovland, who's coming back from playing the Olympics over in Japan, he is sitting at 25-1. Cantlay, 25-1. Rory, 25-1. If you want to, one of the names we have not mentioned, if we keep going, like, what do you about Bryson DeChambeau? Bryson DeChambeau way down at 35-1.
35-1 in a 66 golfer tournament.
Wow.
To play this. He came out today and said he is proudly not vaccinated, so that he, had to miss all of that, and he's, said he's not vaccinated. He's not going to get vaccinated, at least for the time being and stuff. So always run the risk if you do play outrights on some of these guys that have chosen not to go that direction, that they're going to get pulled out in the middle of a tournament or right before a tournament or something like that. So just something else that we kind of have to start handicapping in these individual sports, right, as well, especially from golf, where as long as the guy tees off one hole and if he has to withdraw or has to leave, then you lose your money, right?
So real quick on that, this is kind of what Wes hinted at earlier, and I'm on Brooks Koepka too. I don't know if you are, but I did play Brooks this week. But there was the reports coming out, and Brooks had pulled out of the Pro-Am. But with the WGCs, it matters if you could just get a ball off the tee, that you still get some money off of it. So we've seen Daniel Berger do this in the past. Instead of withdrawing with an injury before the tournament, he hit one tee shot and then withdraws because you still get a paycheck. So I'm on Brooks, but anybody on Brooks, it's a little concerning. You don't really know what's going on with him. And the caddy, I guess, said he's fine. He's definitely going to play. But I don't know if you'll see that on my bets. I might look at him more live in tournament now after hearing that stuff here today.
That is one thing we can mention for our one and done. Like, we're all getting paid this week.
We're all getting paid.
Yeah, we're all getting paid this week. That said, I looked it up, and because I heard people floating that as well. I don't know. I think if it was anybody else other than Brooks, it's $45K. It's $45,000, right? And to Brooks Koepka, it's
like $10.
So
he'd rather have the day off.
Yeah, last place is $45K, and to us, we're teeing it up every time, right? It's happening. We're going out there, and we're getting our $45K or whatever. But it's like,
and 23-year-old Daniel Berger back in the day, sure, right, yeah, but right. Yeah, you're right. I think Brooks would probably $45K is not worth his time.
Yeah, he'd rather just go hang out at the beach, with his girlfriend or whatever.
Can I ask a random question here? We have some course history here where Justin Thomas has had success when we talk to all our golf guys, whether it's Wes Reynolds, whether it's Brady Cannon, whomever, we hear some JT this week. We certainly have heard it from Brooks Koepka, who has course history here as well. Why haven't I heard as much DJ?
I am on Dustin Johnson this week.
Okay.
I am on Dustin Johnson a good bit this week, actually, for a lot of the reasons that you're talking about. Listen, he's had a lot of good course history here, and honestly, there were shades of the old DJ kind of coming back over the last several tournaments and stuff. He hadn't been able to put 4 rounds together, and this was one of the things that we've talked about with some of these other golfers was, man, if they could just put 4 rounds together. It seems like DJ always goes out and like that third round is like a bad round for him, and then he comes back on Sunday and still shoots 400 or 500, doesn't quite get there. But, you know, we've seen Dustin Johnson win a ton of tournaments. We've seen him win, tournaments all over the place. And so for me, I'm not going to miss out on an opportunity here, getting him at nearly 20-1 at some spots out there. You know, again, we always say, Shopper, I mean, it's 18-1 over at DraftKings for, I don't know if what you have going on. I mean, like,
I did not play him, but this is an interesting week, Matt, because of what Gill kind of teed up this segment with, where we go very much off our models. And I really have. There is one golfer that is tops by far in my last 12 rounds, tops by far in my last 24, and tops by in the last 36. And I'm not on him, and it's Collin Morikawa, and it is a little bit of the Olympics angle. He's coming back, but also more the fact that he's a younger guy, and I just don't know if that kind of travel is so much.
Look, I've been to Tokyo twice and coming back, and it is like brutality. It took me a week.
Yes,
it took me like a week to get back to normal. And to feel like even a human being again, much less go play golf against the best golfers in the world for 4 straight days.
Right. So I mainly did stay away from some of the Olympics guys, but Collin is so far ahead in my models. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait around and see what he looks like.
So
I might be jumping in on him live, but I'm not playing him.
I read out the stats that I weighted this week. He is number 1 in the 50 round, the 36 round, the 24 round, and the 12 round model. He is number 1 across the board in every single version I ran.
Collin Morikawa.
Yeah. Across the board, I don't think Matt and I have ever said that when we've previewed a tournament. And are you playing him?
I'm not.
No, because of Tokyo. No.
Yeah, we are both not playing him, and he grades number 1 in every model we ran.
What's your level of self-loathing if he wins this?
Oh, that's where it's like I kind of hate this tournament already, Gil, because like the Brooks thing I talked about earlier, and then Morikawa that I'm not betting, and I'm like horrified of not betting him. So yeah, we'll see. The other ones I'm on outrights. It's a shorter card for me this week. Brooks I played 13-1. Louis Oosthuizen I did play 23-1. He was pretty high up there in my models. The last 12, last 24, he was second in both of those. Matt, Patrick Cantlay, playing him at 25-1, and then a little bit longer shot. The only Olympian I did play was Shane Lowry, but more of a number play. Got him at 60-1 here in town, and you're only going to find him about 45-1, I think, at most other places.
Yeah, and we do that with golf sometimes because again, like if you find a gigantic price discrepancy on a guy that again is talented and whatever, then sometimes even if you're not totally have a ton of conviction in him winning this tournament, sometimes you got to play the number.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, to the DeChambeau thing, anybody wants to tell me when I played Bryson DeChambeau this week at 35-1? I'm not going to knock that at all. I'm not going to knock that at all.
I am fading him in every single way humanly possible. Bryson DeChambeau.
More so than even than the others.
Like every head-to-head I can find, anything I can do to play against him. Like, I mean, this whole thing, like, he's got that whole beautiful mind thing going on or whatever or something like that, or maybe it's Rain Man. I don't know. Whatever, it's something that's going on up there, and like he there's something going on in this whole deal with the driver thing, and then attacking whatever, and then coming out and saying today that this whole thing with the vaccine, and then he's a smart dude, but he was saying he didn't want to take one when he felt like everyone else. There's no shortage of vaccine. If you want one, like I'll come give you one. Like I've got 3 in my backpack. Like that's not.
There's just so much extra going on with that guy.
The great Ken Levicka, who I used to do a radio show with back in West Palm Beach, he tweeted this earlier. He said this guy might be a genius when it comes to physics of golf. He's like, beyond that, I'm not really sure how that genius label applies.
Yeah, the breakup with the cat. I mean, like it's just there's just a lot of things going on here for me, so I'm fading him every chance that I could possibly get. I'm on Daniel Berger this week. I'm on Daniel Berger pretty heavily. Look, he loves this course. There's there's a long history of this course now. The name of the tournament changed, but there's been tournaments played here for 29 years. So I mean, like we get good course history when it comes to TPC Southwind. Daniel Berger has won here in 2016. He won here in 2017. He tied for second here before. I mean, this is a dude who has a really, really good track record at this course. And frankly, if you go across the model, I mean, listen, while he doesn't place super highly in some of the models, like in some of the other versions, he does, Kelley. And also for me, in just some of the statistics that I look at, he stands out, and maybe it doesn't really work across the board. But like I said, it's not the end-all be-all to me right here. Like, I'm not playing the guy who's number one in all four versions of the model. That, so
me too. Yep.
We try to say that all the time. Like, it's not the end-all be-all. Like, I'm not married to this. I use it as a very good guide for me to go in and dig in and try to play people a little bit further. I play Brooks as well. Whatever. If he pulls out for the 45K, then so be it. But won in 2019, runner-up in 2016 and 2020. He was third in 2015 here. He's in great form. He's got top four finishes. He's top four finishes in 6 of his last 5 starts. I mean, it's 5 of his last 6 starts. So it's just, for me, I'm on him. Scotty Scheffler as well. I know Wes was on him. He's got top 10 finishes in 4 of his last 5 as well. I mean, I think these are guys that in this type of field, in this scenario, and you'll notice I am fading the Olympians. Now, whether that's just too easy of a thing for me to do, maybe so, and maybe I'm not getting on the deeper level here and I'm thinking too simplistically, but that's just a lot to come back from, in my opinion.
Yeah, gold medalist Xander Schauffele among those that you are skillfully avoiding here. It is a $10.5 million purse. The winner will get $1.89 million. So we can't catch Kelley even if we win at 550 FedEx Cup
I'm coming
points
for him, though.
as well.